less chitter-chatter, and we'll go on with the meeting. Thank you everybody for coming today, Monday the 6th of February. Right, first item on the agenda is to receive apologies from absence, and we have Ed, Claire and Kieran apologising, and you've all seen the reasons for that. No. The next item is to receive councillors' declarations of interest, and then no any dispensation requests, so declarations of interest, ladies and gentlemen. Right, Heather.
228 and 229, please.
228.
Winter
Oh yeah, 229, fine. Yeah, that's Stuart Garden, and the same for Rob. Ron, no? Sarah?
239.
Yep. Nina, anything? I'm just going to say about 239 that I don't have any interest in it, but I do know one of the applicants personally, so I will bear that in mind. Is that okay? So that's 212, I think, and 213 is we've not received any requests.
I haven't received
So at that moment in time, we close the parish council meeting and we go over to the floor and to receive reports from County and District Councillors. Please say both of you. So, first of all, public, members of the public. Anything you would like to add at this time?
I understand the disposal of the sludge is on the agenda, and the proposal is to spread the sludge over the wilderness, despite concerns being raised at the last council meeting. I have concerns that the sludge is to be spread over an area of sensitive wildlife with high amenity value, and that health and safety issues have not been adequately considered. I have also concerns about the practicalities of spreading the sludge. At the last meeting, a councillor raised these issues, and since then no signage or fencing has been erected to safeguard against the hazard that's been created on the wilderness. Without trying to sound too pompous, with a master's degree in engineering hydrology and over 10 years in the water industry, I don't think this scheme has been adequately thought through. Finally, I'd ask whether the Environment Agency has been approached by the Parish Council so that the scheme is compliant with any legislation or regulation appropriate. And I ask that these points be considered when you discuss the item.
Thank you. Any other? Richard?
Thank you, Peter. Just on the same lines, you will have seen an email that my wife Lynn wrote on 5th of December. It's on the same issue. I mean, I bow to Richard's technical knowledge. I don't know anything about the environmental matters, but we used to use the wilderness quite a lot for dog walking and generally meeting people and so forth. We've not been there since the sludge was deposited because we're concerned with dogs, and I think people with children would be about what the content of that is. And if it were to be spread, you know, what safety issues are there and so forth. So I think I'm here because I'd like to be assured, you know, by the council that all those kind of things have been taken into account. Because, you know, the wilderness is part of the green, it's a wonderful part of Hilton, and at the moment it looks terrible, and I'm really concerned it will be a pretty nasty place for some time.
John?
I, over the past few weeks, have told children not to go onto the slurry, which I get why, which is the typical comment from a child. But at the end of the day, I think that it should be cordoned off at this moment in time, so that anybody, we've got all the orange material that we use for bonfire night, etc. I think it should be cordoned off.
Okay, thank you, John. You comment? Andy?
Yeah, I've got a couple of points. I'm going to read one on behalf of Margaret Shardlow, who can't be here for a clash of meetings. But while we're on the theme of the slurry, I've been approached by a number of villagers whilst walking dog who have concerns about it. As much about its content, what's in it, is it toxic, has it been tested, and the other questions that both Richards have covered there as well. So I'd ask the same question whether Environment Agency have been approached, have they tested it, do we know it's safe? I believe there's a low risk waste position that they give for spreading slurry, and you need to get permission of the types of slurry that's going to be. So my questions are the same. Have they been approached and have they given permission? I'll read Margaret's comments out verbatim. She says, it's to do with Her Majesty's coronation in Hilton. Since it was decided some years ago that any future special occasions would be commemorated by the lighting of a Hilton beacon, please ensure that this will indeed take place. Second point is, can we please unite events in celebration? And third, can we also please not honour the occasion with yet another bench, tree or copse? Let's be more imaginative this time. End of quote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, that's the general public comments. Claire, Doug, who would like to go first?
Ladies first this time.
So the district council agrees to start the update of the full local plan update. So that's beginning. So you will be contacted in regards to the time frame and when parish councils are contacted as well, and residents in consultation with that. But that's still to come. There have been 46 warm hubs now available from the community test grant, and I can see that Hilton has now got a warm hub, which is great. It would be great to receive any feedback as well on how that's going. Equally, Flintstown also has their warm hub, so it's really great to see that the ward has gotten on board with that. I noticed in the agenda that you have a health project grant agreement for £7,500. I don't know whether this is linked, but somewhere else in the district there's also been other awards of that, so that it might be interesting to hear later on in the meeting about that. So Huntingdonshire has received 1.5 million from the Shared Prosperity Fund by the CPCA for 8 new projects. I have a list of 7 projects which I can send out, but the most notable is there's 150,000 for the active travel feasibility studies. And I know this has previously been spoken about, so yes, it might be beneficial for Hilton. So supporting future external funding bids, so that might be helpful. There's a community-based employment skills provision and money available there. Vibrant communities money as well, 155,000 for events and arts and culture in the villages and our villages. And business investment as well, 75,000 for small to medium businesses. There's the startup entrepreneurship program, 100,000 which has been given to that. And I'm just seeing, so yes, there's a number of money sort of being poured into Huntingdonshire, which is really, really good to see, to prioritise our communities. In place people and skills, and also investment into net zero, which is 320,000. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities coming up. At the moment, also there's the Hunt's Future Place strategy going on, which is also a consultation going on at the moment to look at the future of Huntingdonshire, and at the moment the councillors are sort of looking at that and being consulted on, and again that will eventually reach to parishes as well. And then there has been an update on the bulky waste from Christmas. There was a change in January, but that is still going on from county. But for any HDC waste, I think the update is that they need to be divided, and the advice is on the website. Thank you.
Any comments, questions for Claire? Okay, thank you, Claire. You're more welcome to stay around for the, it's not that far down the agenda, but we'll get to it on the health grant. Doug.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you all again. My apologies, I will be disappearing quickly. We've got our annual budget meeting tomorrow, so I've got about 600 pages worth of agenda to read through again, just to make sure I do understand what's going on. I'll do my report and then disappear, if you don't mind. That is. At the moment, we've got a balanced budget that we're bringing forward tomorrow as a council, which is good, because obviously all councils have to do that, as indeed you do, so it is balanced. The precept will be moving by about 5% this year, which is less than inflation, but more than is normally allowed, because we're normally capped at just over 3%. The extra 2%, I think, as I mentioned before, is going into social care. The government has said that the appropriate authorities, whether that be county or unitary, can actually have the extra 2%, provided it is ring-fenced for that. And there's projects underway to see how that can be usefully used. There's a good project that's in the early stages at the moment of how we can get people. What the biggest problem with the National Health Service is people being stuck there because there's nowhere else for them to go, and there's some work going on at the minute as to whether or not buildings and properties in and around hospitals can somehow be utilised to move people out of the wards and be nearby. But it's very early stages, so I listened to a report on that last week, which sounds interesting, but I think there's a long way to go. But I think that's the type of thing it needs to go into, and hopefully it will help a bit. I suspect it's not enough, but it's a good start. At least it is ring-fenced rather than it goes into a pot and then if something else crops up that we need more urgently, in inverted commas, it gets moved. It's actually stuck for that. Other than that, the main thing I always report on is highways, and I think there's some progress being made there at long last. I mean, it's not all good news, but it's not all bad news either. I mean, this year the number of potholes has increased. I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 2,500 reported across the district to 4,500, but a lot of that's been to do with the weather that we've had in the last year, especially on the Fenland roads, where obviously if you have a lot of dry weather followed by a lot of wet weather, that does contract and expand very rapidly. And unfortunately, the roads aren't based on anything, whereas elsewhere in the district there's sort of substrate underneath, in the actually natural substrate that supports the roads. On the Fens there's not, so they move. And those who've travelled across to Ely or places like that will have noticed that the new road that was laid between Erith and Sutton last year, already it's started to peel away, actually not just at the edges but right into the middle of the road, because the soil there is just dried out and dropped away. So whether that's a consequence of global warming or just what happens in a particularly dry summer, which is what we had last year, it is interesting to know. The Highways Authority nationally and the various transport teams have identified hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of work that needs doing everywhere. Well, probably millions of pounds worth of work needs doing. Actually identified it, but it's actually found no money to actually do it. So the county's received a great big long list of work that needs doing, but no extra cash to do it with. And to be honest with you, we weren't actually getting there with the cash we had before. So it's interesting to see. But that doesn't mean we're not going to get the cash, because obviously we're getting that budget round at the minute. So maybe a settlement that comes forward, and once again that'll be ring fenced to do certain work. Something that has come out of the highways that I am pleased about, I've said to you, the chairman who's taken over this year, I felt was getting to grips with it. The number one, he's done that. We had a meeting with him the other day. All councillors were invited, and he was quite honest about his findings on it and whatever else. And there are some odd things within the system. There seem to be it's not just one where you can say you can blame the previous administration and one before. There's some things there that seem to have been institutionalised over the years. For example, I often get complaints that someone says, I've reported a pothole and I've gone back online and it says it's been completed. And it hasn't, it's still there. And apparently for some reason, the system has been set up to actually log it. So once it gets passed to whoever the contractors are at that time to do it, it gets marked on the system as done, even though it's not. Worse than that, there's no follow-up on it. So we're now having to backfill or backbuild how that can be built in. Another thing that we're working hard on is this ridiculous scenario where there's a pothole where you're sitting and another pothole where the clerk's sitting. I'm going to repair the pothole where the clerk's sitting and drive straight past this one, because there's no log-on system that picks them up. That's being worked on as well. So there's some good work going there. I don't pretend it's going to happen quickly, because nothing ever does with councils, as you know, but that it is being identified and it is being pulled together, and hopefully it will improve things, because it is a ridiculous scenario. You drive past one pothole to fill in the next one when it's actually on the list, but it hasn't actually got to you yet. Where with the appropriate use of technology, with the handhelds,
you can literally see where you're going and it will ping as you go. So, and I think we're also looking to be a bit more constructive. So if actually the teams are out and they see a pothole that hasn't been reported, they can actually at least do a temporary repair on that while they're out. So there's some on that, so I'm pleased about that, which is good to see. Most other groups within the council at the minute seem to be doing their thing, as I say, and a lot of it really comes down to what's coming out of the budget this year, and we'll have a lot more exciting to report after that, I hope. The only other thing that it's county, but it's also the Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership and also the Combined Authority is the bus strategies, the various ones that are going on. People are getting thoroughly confused by the fact there's a Cambridge and Peterborough one, there's a Cambridgeshire one, and there's also the Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership, all of which have got different partners. You know, I didn't realise for a long while, and I've been on the district council for donkey's years, that the Greater Cambridgeshire Partnership actually had 4 partners. I always presumed it had 3, i.e. South Cambridgeshire, the City of Cambridge, Cambridgeshire County Council. Apparently equal partner is Cambridge University. And they carry a huge amount of weight but put very little money into it apparently. So, but it makes it for an interesting mix of things. Whereas if you get the Combined Authority, it's the 5 districts, the 2 cities, all peeling in differently. And then of course the Cambridgeshire one doesn't include Peterborough and the surrounds there. So you've got these 3 different strategies, and trying to pull them together it's proven to be interesting. But I think for anything to succeed in the long run, there's got to be some sort of public transport strategy that works for us all. And I'm at least pleased to see they're actually ongoing. So as and when things become clearer, I'll report a bit more. If you've got any questions to ask, please ask Claire, who's nodding.
Yeah, she is. Away. Anybody got any questions for Doug? Heather.
Regarding the new NHI scheme for
Yes.
20 mile an hour, you've got any advice about how to proceed with that?
Yes, there'll be some notes coming out on that very shortly. I didn't mean to mention that, so thanks for reminding me. It'll be out. If the clerk hasn't had them already, they will be out later this month, because there's going to be 2 distinct streams. So there's going to be the LHI and the totally separate 20 mile an hour zones. So you'll be able to put a bid on both. Whereas in the past you had to choose, if you wanted to 20 mile, it was your LHI bid. They're now separate, so you do get the opportunity, if you decide tonight, and actually got an item on there as to whether you want to, if you decide you want to do that, that doesn't then preclude you from coming up with another LHI scheme you might want to do. But if the clerk hasn't had it already, by the end of the month she will have the information to enable you to do both.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Just one question. Any update on the NMU we're always interested in? Defence
It's another one of those that it's referred to things that seem to disappear into the ether.
Yeah.
It's there. There's been documents. I had a meeting with Sue Proctor, who's the head of can't remember which part of highway she's head of, and we actually found items that had been agended in the past, but it's literally fallen between the cracks again. So I think, as referred to earlier, I think it's one we're going to have to dig out and start again. I mean, there's no money allocated to it, even though there's a plan down there. There was originally going to be money coming out of the, what's it, A14? I think it was supposed to be, but there was never, the second tranche has not followed that was expected. So that's what Sue has told me to now. But I'm seeing her tomorrow, so I'll ask her to update me and then let you know via the clock.
It is on the listing for a 23-24 spend.
There is, but there's no money allocated to it yet, so, which is the thing. And as I say, when I saw Sue 2 months ago, she couldn't find it at all, and then we found it while we were going through. So that might be why it's up on, but it is on the list of spending. But it's not actually anywhere in her file, so
it'll come out in the wash.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point.
Yeah.
The money, we've still got some money, so we're holding on to it, and they'll ask for it one day.
Yep.
I'm sure. Okay, thank you, Doug. Right, so that's the end of the open meeting. So we close that part off, and we reopen the parish council meeting. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the parish council meeting held on Monday, the 5th of December. We've all had them, and do you have any comments regarding the minutes?
Just one minor comment. Page 5, just wondered for clarity whether it would be worth, we've reverted to christian names, first names, rather than councillors and the surnames as for the rest of the document. I don't know if that might cause confusion for anyone. Item
That's
196.
I'm off that. Yeah. Item
196 on page 5. It's just a minor sort of.
council appoints working group to skirt.
Just in case anyone didn't marry the first names with their surname.
Okay.
Right, so nothing
Right,
else.
so bear that one in mind.
I would have liked a point in there that would have said that a councillor raised the concerns that we've heard this evening in the last meeting about the sensitivity of the dredgings on the wilderness.
Okay. At the minute that says parishioners are concerned about the effect of wildlife in a sensitive area.
I feel
some have been abusive to council members.
Yes, well, they haven't been abusive to anybody else, have they?
I don't know.
No, well, I would have liked it to have said that a councillor raised it. I appreciate names can't be put in there.
Okay.
Because I feel open to further abuse when I'm out, and I feel I've had my personal reputation and my professional reputation called into question, and I just feel it would be a better way of phrasing it and reflect what actually happened in the meeting and what was said in the meeting more accurately.
Okay. So, anybody else got any comments on the minutes of the last meeting? So we've got two items. 193, which would be a request to add in that a councillor raise the objections of parishioners.
Concerning, yeah. I sent an alternative to what was in there to Nicola, but I haven't received a response.
You have.
I haven't received a response to my last email, Nicola.
It was sent to you at 19 minutes past 3 this afternoon.
But for clarity, you would like a
I would
councillor...
like it to say that a councillor raised these issues, so that it can meet people, the issues their concerns
The concerns of parishioners.
of parishioners about the impact of the dredgings on the wilderness.
Right. And in 196, the request is that the names of the councillors are removed, parishioners names are removed to be
Just standardising the rest of the document.
Right. So, the usual vote at this stage is to accept those minutes as they are. So the question is, first of all, does any councillor, apart from me, obviously who's asking for that to be changed, wish to see the minutes on 193 changed?
What you would do here, you talked about an amendment to a motion. So
Yeah.
you normally vote on the amendment before you then vote on the substantive motion.
All right. So Nina's proposing that there's an amendment to this, to the article 193. Yeah, and that would be in the paragraph that parishioners are concerned about the effect on wildlife and some have been abusive to the council members, and she would like to see added into there a councillor raised the concerns of parishioners regarding this item. Now, the rest of you, would you like to support that proposal or not vote on it?
I think I would like to support it. However, I am aware that there's no standing order dictate what goes into the minutes. I don't know if we have flexibility over that to agree that should go in.
So your standing orders state that the minutes should just be the resolutions of the council.
Yeah.
But in this case, I've gone slightly beyond that by putting the comments from that discussion into that paragraph, when, according to your standing orders, that minute should just read, resolve that.
Okay. So can we just extend that as proposed?
So the debate we had about it was based around Charles Arnold Baker, which states that minutes should be as brief as possible to remain informative, which is why you've got councillors discussed the dredging and made the following comments. Parishioners are concerned about the effect on the wildlife and the sensitive area of the wilderness, and some have been abusive to council members. The proposed change from the email was parishioners' concerns about the effects of the wildlife value on the sensitive wilderness were raised, and some parishioners were abusive to a member of the council.
I I would just like, when I'm out in the village, to not have further comment and be able to refer people to the minutes and for them to see that somebody here raised them, because they'll know that was me.
Can we just say where you already have the bit about parishioners were concerned? Can you just say a councillor raised or
Well, we have councillors
informed the
discussed the
council
dredging and made the following comments. Is that not duplicating that?
No, I'm happy as long as that. Yeah.
It does say
That's
at the
already in
beginning,
there.
councillors
Councillors discussed the dredging and made the following comments. So it's
It's not the same
councillors
as
made the following
somebody
comments.
actually raising concerns that were by people who were actually really angry. You're not getting the flavour of that at all in there, are you?
No, it's not designed to be emotive.
So,
Is there any harm in just saying a councillor reported before that? So that
No, you can, it's the decision of the council at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they're your minutes.
they all are minutes, so we can vote that here if you would like. The rules are that the minutes should not be verbatim and they should not be reflective of any one particular councillor. It is the voice of the council. So,
So can you just ask again?
it's they're not verbatim and they're not the voice of an individual councillor. They are the voice of the council, the decisions that are made by the council.
So for that reason, we can't do that amendment.
You can make, if you vote on it, you can make the amendment. If that is the decision of the vote, correct?
It's the council's decision, but yes, the minutes are the voice of the corporate body rather than being the voice of individuals. That the minutes are the record of the decisions that this corporate body made rather than statements made by individuals.
So in the future, there could be situations where one councillor has said something and then that's all recorded.
Well, that's what, minutes, according to, so Charles Arnold Baker states that minutes are intended to be formal records of official acts and decisions, not reports, still less verbatim reports of the speeches made by councillors. Minutes should therefore be as short as is consistent with clarity and accuracy, and the arguments used in the discussion need to be recorded only if the decision cannot be clearly expressed in any other way.
So I'm very sympathetic to Nina's point. I think our current standing orders limit us to doing what we want, but I think it'd be really healthy to promote a discussion about how we can be more transparent in the future about all of this.
Okay. That's common. Nina, what you to propose, because it's your request, you
I
propose.
propose we make that amendment.
Okay.
I
And you
just,
second
it
that
would
request.
relieve a lot of anxiety for me.
Rob's seconding it. All those in favour of amending the request? That's 3, 4. That'll do. 4, 2. The amendment will be made. I'd assume, I don't know, we haven't, I should ask, those abstaining from the vote and those against the vote. Because we don't know. No. I'm against.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
can we record Nicola?
Yeah, we'll need to just go through that again then.
And the only reason I'm against it is because the statement will say it's the voice of the corporate body, not the individual.
Can I clarify why I'm abstaining then?
I don't want it recorded in minutes.
Okay. Well, I'm abstaining because I think that the minutes as they stand have maybe blurred that guidance, and so as such we're caught between. We've got more than we should have, but less than some want, and I think that's quite an awkward situation. I haven't really got my head around that.
I think more was put in the minutes for that particular
Because
cause,
of
because it's
absolutely
such a
the rationale, and I think that's where Heather's point was very astute, that probably a revisitation of that particular point of standing orders is necessary to give us maybe a tad more discretion in the future.
Then going on to 196.
Yeah, we need to vote on that as an amendment.
So I propose that we amend the minutes in 196 to replace Christian names with councillors' surnames. Seconded by Heather. All those in favour? Thank you. Is that okay? Right.
The names without the substantive motion that you approved in it is true.
Oh, and then, subject to those two amendments, I propose that the minutes are accepted for the 5th of December 2000. Yeah. Right, next up is to ratify and review the decisions made under the scheme of delegation. And no, it's not, it must be part of.
So the Redwood's deed of easement has been signed and submitted. The daffodils have been planted around the church wall by the community garden volunteers. The bench that's to be placed near the Wilderness Bridge has been purchased using a donation from the Hilton Wildlife and Conservation Group and will be installed by the maintenance person. The culvert outside Green End House has been confirmed that it's a Cambridgeshire County Council asset, and so the repair of this culvert is their responsibility. They've instructed their contractor to rebuild the head wall on the western side and repair the head wall on the eastern side, but I don't have a date for these works at this point. County Council have also instructed their rights of way team to repair 3 further bridges in Hilton, including the bridge to the Wilderness from the football pitch, which is technically a parish council asset, so that just saves us a little bit of money by placing that there. The LHI bid for improved signage was submitted. The retaining wall of the maze has deteriorated due to the cold weather, and I have recently contacted Construction England to query whether there are any grants available for repair, as there was a grant previously that allowed that retaining wall to be repaired. And over the weekend, signs have been erected on the green advising of the intended installation of telegraph poles for county broadband. So I have been in contact with county broadband for further information.
Thank you. And then the next one is to review and ratify decisions on scheme delegation. What is going on with this? There was TP Garden Services were appointed to conduct the agreed works, tidy up the vegetation at the Ware due to the withdrawal of the previously recommended contractor. That was work on the other side of the pond. Yeah.
The ivy and the brambles.
And we agreed an amount for that work to be done some while back.
Yeah.
And was that target achieved?
It was £930, which is remaining in that budget.
Yeah.
That's what we've been requested for.
A response was sent in support of the planning application work for the parish council tree work, and I was asked about if you'll contact me, and as it was the stuff we wanted to do, and we said yes. A grant application was submitted for the health project in accordance with the recommendations of the working group. Well done, working group, councillors Chambers, Dulstone, Sarkeys and Suppling, and I think we could conclude that that was successful.
Yeah,
as we will come on to. So well done, well done. Response sent to the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority Alternative Fuels Strategy. John, Councillors Capes and Dulstone were consulted and helped Nicola fill that in and send that off. So just have to verify that you're happy with the decisions that were done under the scheme of delegation. Any questions? If not, I propose that those items are accepted. Seconded, all in favour? Thank you. Good. So that was that's that done. The next is the Green Open Spaces report. Do this,
yep. So
or is it just as said? Yeah.
Pretty much as said. But,
right, I'll do the first bits of it. Permission has been received from HDC for all the agreed work that you did the thing for. So
finally.
The result. One of the tree surgeons came on the 26th of January to carry out his work. The other 2 tree surgeons are due in March, which may mean that invoicing goes through to the next financial year. Open Spaces Officer is planning an ivy cut for the 25th of March, and that will be publicised by the Clerk at the time. The Field Maple Memorial Tree will be planted on Sunday the 26th of February. This was all agreed last year. It will be in the middle of the small copse in the north-east end of the wilderness, replacing a failed tree that was planted 3 to 4 years ago. The remaining trees mostly established. Good?
Memorial tree.
Yes. And there's a register now to show where memorial trees are. So that's that. Thank you very much, Ian. The next item on the agenda is to consider appointing a mole catcher to remove the moles or moulds around the church wall cost £80. Mould damage has been observed on the green south of the churchyard under the oak towards the minor ford. We used a mould catcher previously in 2021 and they have confirmed the same price would be for £80 to remove said moulds. Why? Because mole hills can cause damage to grass cutting equipment and there is a potential health and safety risk as the material in mole hills can be thrown out at speed by the mower and poses risk of significant harm to pedestrians. Concerns have been raised by parishioners regarding the need for mole catchers and the expense. So, on the one hand, you have got the moles, on the other hand, there is the possibility that when the mole hills are mowed, debris will fly. So, questions, please discuss.
Is it possible to ask John what is, because he does a lot of mowing in the village, what his view is on moles and mole hills at all?
Yes, we'll close the parish council meeting and you can ask him. He's just there.
I will, but I just needed to ask you first if I could.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's right.
John, moles. Do you agree with this? What would your perspective be as a man who mows a lot round the village?
If you put my big mower through one of those, any stones, it will fly them 50 yards.
Right.
Right. If there's no stones in it, it just flattens it. But you put a stone in it and it will fly it.
But it won't damage your equipment.
Oh no, what I've got. No.
Right, no, that was the other thing I was
But they certainly need doing. Because there must be 40 now under that oak tree.
Right, okay, thank you.
And do they cause damage, John?
Pardon?
Do they cause damage?
Moles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? He is.
£80.
Does he trap them live
Charges £80 a mole.
and then release them somewhere else?
I don't think he's catching release, I think he's catch and kill.
Okay.
So the RHS advice, the Royal Horticultural Society.
So have we closed the... Have you,
Oh, we closed down the public and reopened the parish council meeting.
So the RHS advice is to live and let live and not to compromise.
I followed your link. It didn't necessarily say that, did it? It said,
What was the last line?
it said that you can deal if they're causing, but use an authorised mole catcher. And this guy is an authorised mole catcher. It does promote the thing, but it doesn't say that you can't.
No, it doesn't say you can't, it doesn't recommend.
Excuse me, that's not the only place in the village where mole hills are.
Thank you, John. Right, so let's do it along. The proposal is that the parish council appoint mole catcher to catch the moles, £80. Anybody support that motion? Sarah does. All those in favour of that motion? I hope Sarah's voting.
Oh,
for it.
yes,
Yeah.
sorry.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Right, that's 2. All those against that motion? 2. And abstaining? 2. Chairman's vote will appoint the mole catcher and deal with said moles. Right, consider the annual maintenance.
Okay. Please bear with me.
Yeah, yeah.
I just say I abstain because I'm torn. On the one hand, I don't want to kill moles, and on the other hand, I'm torn because I don't want to cause an accidental damage to
Was that? Yeah. No, it's
a difficult
fairly difficult one. That's no.
So John, you abstained, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to consider reviewing the annual maintenance contract for the churchyard, garden and ditches. That's the village garden. Annual cost of £2,950. Presently £2,500. The maintenance contract is split into two parts. Main contract is for grass cutting across the green and the maintenance of the maze, which runs until the 31st of March 2024. The remaining contract is for the maintenance of the churchyard, village garden and ditches, which expires on the 31st of March 2023. That was previously £2,500. The current contractor has offered to do that at £2,950, and that would be within our budget of £10,000.
You reduced it to 9,300.
Okay, as the main contract is worth, if you do the sums, you'll see that it's within £9,300. And parishioners have fed back that the work this other maintenance contractor has been doing around the churchyard, particularly, I think,
The churchyard particularly here.
has been very positive. So, any thoughts?
So this is the same contractor, just extending their contract?
Yes, yeah, renewing the
But
contract
for
for
a
further
higher
years.
price.
For another year, yeah. Okay. Any thoughts? Any questions? Because if not, I should propose we do it.
in the past fortnight. Me.
Propose we renew for a year at the slightly increased price. It's within the budget. I propose that we do it. Ever seconded? All those in favour?
No, I just do it right. It has
Good.
to be done.
And the next item on the agenda is to review the plan for spreading the dredged material
For another month.
and decide on actions. Right. So, I wasn't at this meeting, unfortunately. I couldn't go, but there was, the recommendation is that a mini digger is hired and a mini dumper to sort out and spread the dredge material. It will require several volunteers over at least 2 days. We've got the amount in, the amount out. There's a couple £100 in there, isn't there? And the recommendation is to authorise a budget of up to £1,000 for the hire of machinery. Now, there have been some comments made this evening about slurry. I don't think it's actually slurry. I believe it's dredged material. Slurry tends to be manure produced by cows. So it doesn't have the toxicity.
Not factually correct.
But, and also, we have been asked to rope it off, and have we taken the advice of an environmental officer? Okay, so let's deal with some of that, shall we? If we can. If we can't, we won't. We'll get more information. So, environmental officer. Now, when the whole thing was planned out, the County Council's resilience officer, flood resilience officer came along and said, you to dredge these ditches and ponds, and then it won't take it away, but it was put on there, and we contacted a local
Farmers. The original recommendation from the flood resilience officer was that a local farmer would take it and spread it across their fields. But none of our surrounding farmers were interested.
and a local, I was going to say council, local parishioner advised us that the toxicity of the dredge material was safe.
It wouldn't be toxic if it's spread across the wilderness.
It wouldn't, and we know that from the Green Open Spaces officer that it will, well, originally it was going to be that it would be about 2 centimetres across the surface of the wilderness, but there's considerably less than was anticipated. So it might be a less of a thing. And the idea of that proposal is that we use some machinery to help sort out the clumps of reeds that and any big items of wood, so that it has got less.
I remember as part of the documentation when we were discussing the dredging in the first place, I remember seeing reports on the sort of low potassium levels and things like that, so there was a degree of analysis done by somebody, wasn't there?
That was from our open spaces officer.
Yeah.
And it's been, from memory, it's been done before. This isn't the first time this has happened.
So there's a bit of a debate. So ponds have been dredged previously, and there is a bit of a debate about where the material was spread. With people saying it wasn't spread on the wilderness, and other people saying it was. Yeah. So that, I mean, and I don't know, I wasn't around, I don't think, when the ponds were previously dredged, so I can't say whether or not it was, but some people would say it was, and other people would say it wasn't. We've had input to say that placing that material on the wilderness isn't toxic or harmful to people. It might smell a bit, but once it's spread and it will wash into the soil, then the smell will go.
Can I ask, because the public have asked, has anybody asked the Environment Agency toxic or not? Has it been tested? That was what's been asked.
It hasn't been tested, but we took advice from somebody who
Yeah,
was
I
qualified
understand.
in that sort of field, and they said it wouldn't be toxic. But maybe
Well, there was two sources of advice that said it wouldn't be toxic.
And the reason that those were taken was that the quote to remove the material from the village was going to be in the region of £400,000, which would, as we've said in previous meetings, would mean that the only way you could do that would be by precepting it, and it would be in excess of £1,000 per property, roughly. Also, of course, you have the split cap with any decisions like this. You have people who want it done and are pleased that it's done, and you have people who have concerns about it being done. So we have that across any decision, and at the minute we've had... How many complaints have you received this Clerk?
Official complaints, no.
So we have people telling us that they're unhappy, but nobody has actually written to the council saying, apart from one maybe, on the 5th of December, yeah, one letter of complaint? Email of
I
concern?
don't know the email of concern. It was not a formal complaint.
So, and it's a difficult thing to balance out, but if we go 6 months down the line, the pile will have gone, the things will be spread out across, the grass will have grown through it, and the ground that was disturbed when the diggers went over it will have prepared. And so it's a difficult decision. We're not going to leave it as it is.
Just going back to the original discussion and the original reason for discussing distributing it all over the wilderness was because the estimate was for up to 214-tonne lorryfuls of dredgings.
But it was 200 cubic metres.
Yeah. In practice, it's a lot less. And the reason we took the approach to spread it across the wilderness was because I think the original plan was just to plonk it on the side of the back of the wilderness somewhere where there is already stuff like that piled up. And we thought it wouldn't fit because of the estimated volume we'd received at the time. So I'm just wondering, especially, and now I haven't looked closely at it in the last few days, but certainly during the cold weather it froze, so it was solid, not something that you could easily spread with a muck spreader or something. So I'm just wondering whether would it suit everybody's purposes better to actually just move it to a limited area and grass it over or whatever, and just let it break down naturally in a corner.
The advice that Claire obtained from the environmental expert in the village was that it would be not toxic if it was spread.
I see. Okay.
But obviously,
So
if that material is then concentrated in one area, then that's going to increase its toxicity. The concern is not the nitrate level, it's the phosphate level, because phosphate is quite stable in the soil.
Okay.
The advice I've had from two parties in the village is that instead of spreading it, it would be better to take some topsoil off and dig a hole and bury it, because then you haven't got to worry about the debris in it as a safety hazard. You haven't got to worry about the toxicity, and you retain the seed bank of the rare plants. You just put that back on and then they grow over the top. And then if you have got excess soil, it is not a soil that is contaminated, and local farmers would take it. And also the advice I've had from somebody in the village who is used to using heavy plant, they are not of the opinion that a mini digger and a mini dumper will be sufficient in 2 days. You need something more substantial. If you look at the size of the plants that was used to bring the material to the wilderness, we'd probably need something larger.
The reason the smaller equipment was used was because it's about sifting through it as well,
Well, if
to remove those larger objects.
if we considered the option of taking topsoil off and digging a hole, we wouldn't have to worry about the sifting. We wouldn't have to worry about the health and safety. I do wonder at a health and safety issue spreading something that's got broken glass and the like in. Are we going to say that we're going to get every bit out? Are we going to say we're going to get every bit of metal out or whatever? Are we going to be liable if somebody then cuts themselves at a later date because we didn't get it all? I know I'm actually sounding pedantic, but at the end of the day, our names are on this scheme, and I think it might be a good idea to consider, or to maybe get further advice, maybe from Nature England possibly, about what to do in an area that's sensitive, because they do this sort of thing all the time. That's what they advise on. And I just think, personally, I am not in favour of spreading this material over the area in question because of health and safety, because of the wildlife interest, because of the amenity. In fact, you've got a lot of people in the village who are playing or doing activities or whatever.
So the council has voted to spread this material across the area, the wilderness, voted on in previous meetings, I believe, and that was a majority decision, correct? The actual sifting and separating has not been planned to be undertaken in the next month or so, has it, because of the weather? The plan is to leave it until...
Could I just ask one thing? Is it possible to ask somebody here who is an expert on, water schemes, as in Richard?
Richard's made his point of view earlier, hasn't he?
I know, but he's, from what I can see from his face, is what we're saying is actually factually incorrect, and I'm not comfortable making any decision in here unless we have more facts.
Okay. What do the rest of the councillors feel?
Well, we closed it to what
Yeah,
we've
no,
got.
hang on a minute. Let's ask what the other councillors feel about that.
I think we made a decision based on a much bigger quantity than we've actually got left with. I think I have looked at it, and spreading it across an area would seem to be okay. And we've taken, the choice that we're getting differing advice from people, but we asked our own open space person, and he met with Kieran, and that was their recommendation. So it's difficult to go against your own open space officer.
And a parishioner as well.
Okay. And my only thought is that it's not going to take over the whole of the wilderness. It's probably going to take over about a quarter of the wilderness, I thought. And we could put some fencing around that just whilst we're assessing what's going on to cover the health and safety aspects of it.
If it's needed.
If it's needed.
Could we not consider the alternative method?
A few sort of observations. I don't know how much further it's going to take as well. If not spreading, then what? That was the first thing that I wrote down. And I think obviously the quantity that Councillor Dulston's indicated is very significant factor in spreading as the previously best option that we assessed. I don't quite understand how burying is going to address any concentration concerns. Will that not be akin to banking it in terms of the concentration will be vertically and surrounding the same as it would be buried? So I'm not quite sure that model answers. However, I'm open to sort of observations on it. Maybe some more advice would be useful. The detritus in it, having picked metal and glass out of it, I think that having done that, definitely what do we do if it gets fragmented further, bearing in mind the recreational use of the wilderness. So we've got shards of aluminium and glass spread around something I was not cognizant of until I spent a very cold morning following on from Rob, trying to sift it through. Which leads to my next point, that is not a 2-day job unless the whole village mobilises. I would suggest if we're sifting and spreading, because it's a nightmare to try and separate that stuff. And I no doubt it's set, as the moisture's leached out, it's probably set like concrete now.
But that was the point this builder said actually, it's going to be harder to move, unfortunately, because it's it'll be like lumped, or it's quite sticky and it'll stick in a bucket.
So in terms of the size of the logistics for spreading and the size of, if we need it filtering before spreading, I think that's a very different format moving on to the suggestions that we achieve that, which may then lend towards a burying or a stacking option. But fully accept what you're saying about the previous voted amendment. The one thing we make our decision on the basis of the efficacy of the advice, don't we? And if we are satisfied that the original toxicity concerns were well answered by those two sources, then great. If we have doubts, then I guess I would then say how accurate was that advice. If there are no doubts about it and it stands on its own merits, then that's fine. Nina.
Well, the other question from the public was, do we have permission to spread it? I don't know. Do we? From the Environment Agency? Because you can't just spread stuff willy-nilly. You have to have permission. You have to have permission to store that volume of stuff, I would imagine, as well.
Any comment on that from when the thing was pulled together?
There's no mention about
The
having
need
permission
to. All right.
for removing, storing or spreading.
Can we ask if Richard has a comment?
Yeah, please do. We can close the council meeting and open it. Richard.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first point I'd make is that I've no axe to grind here. You want to use my professional experience for the interests of the village. As I said, and I don't wish to be pompous, I've got a master's degree in engineering and hydrology. I spent 10 years in the water industry. My earliest jobs in the water industry were in urban and rural land drainage, so I've got history here. The first point I'd make is that taking 20 or 200 cubic metres of, I'm going to call it sludge, out of the ponds in the village is not going to materially affect flooding in the village. There's hundreds or thousands of cubic metres of water that come through this village at peak times, and taking 20 or 200 cubic metres is not going to affect flooding in the village. The second point I'd make is I in no way challenge the toxicity points that have been made by the Green Spaces officer or the other parishioner. I'm sure they're right on the nitrates and the phosphate issues. I'm not challenging that issue at all. What I am raising, or what I'd like in my written statement, the council to consider is the amenity. It's a valuable asset, that wilderness. People walk their dogs, kids play in there. The points that have been made by councillors on the right there. Sifting out the material, the glass material, the metal material, the hazardous material, and I think sifting out is going to be very difficult. And the risk of spreading it around the wilderness, I think, is quite severe. I do also have concerns that there is a hazard that's been created on the wilderness now. We've heard from John that he's had to tell children not to play on the sludge heap because of the risk of falling onto grass or metal. And I think that's a real concern that I would like the council to consider. Chairman, I've heard you say that this isn't going to happen in the next month, so in my professional opinion, there ought to be some barriers and some signage urging people to keep off that area of land. And the final point that I'd make is the Environment Agency and Natural England have an interest here. There are regulations, there is legislation that should be complied with. And I would ask, as I asked in the open statement, that the council take advice from the relevant authorities as to how best to dispose of this material.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody got any questions? Okay, we'll close.
Good.
Open.
Yeah,
I was come back to the parish council.
I have one question
John,
before we close. So, I mean, of the options that have been discussed, what would be do you think would be the most sensible in terms of burial, stacking it or spreading it? What would your view on the best way to get rid of that pile?
The first thing I'll say on it, I don't wish to be unhelpful, but I wouldn't start from here. I wouldn't have dredged it and put it where it is.
But we are where we are. So
But we are where we are. I personally and professionally think that spreading it is the wrong answer for the reasons that we've discussed. I don't claim to have the authority to say it should be buried or it should be piled up. But those two options would appear to be more attractive than spreading it, if indeed local farmers cannot accommodate the sludge.
Thank you. Right, we'll come back to the parish council. Any councillors, comments or suggestions?
I did actually, as a villager, not as a parish councillor, to Peter Burton, because I thought maybe if I appealed to him, he might have a space somewhere where he would take it, or he could give advice because he is chairman of the drainage board. And he thought about it, and he said if the Environment Agency had tested it and said that it was not contaminated, that was his words, not contaminated, then he would have considered having it. He did say that, as far as he aware, he hadn't been approached to take it. I didn't comment because I wasn't a parish councillor, but he then said he thought about it a bit more, and he said he didn't think he'd got somewhere where he could put it.
Okay.
So I did try.
That's fine. So any actions that you'd like to see take place?
I think we could, it doesn't solve the problem, but I think given the amount of time it's going to take, we could propose to rope off or fence off the current slurry area as being a sensible idea if we've got the road safety stuff.
The orange, the council has orange fencing, the stuff that's used at
The farmer. That's not the farmer committee stuff then. Right. So we have that. Who's going to monitor it then, police it, to stop people going on it?
If it's fenced off, we don't need to monitor it, do we?
Nose is also fenced off.
Anyway, just a thought. So from what I'm gathering, there is a desire to perhaps put some fencing up, just fence it off, with a sign saying, keep off, please keep off.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine. Okay, so that's one thing. What other thoughts?
County Council gave us the grant for it, didn't they? They recommended that we should dredge our ponds. We followed their advice. They are the County Council.
Yep.
They gave us options about approaching farmers, which I know Nicola did, and the farmers weren't in a position to do it. We took advice, we've got it here, and keeping it in its current state is going to promote the nasty stuff that's going on there. So therefore we need to disperse it as much as we can.
Yeah.
I appreciate there might be metal bits and glass bit in it, but equally it can be, somebody can throw a bottle, can't they, on the grass.
I was going to say every year there's metal and glass across the green from various things that are held, but the parish council would do its best to ensure that that material is removed from the sludge.
We're frequently approached by metal detectors who want to use the green. We could let them.
They've already damaged everywhere enough, digging it out.
So, is it worth asking, would you like to see the person who gave us the advice on the non-toxicity of the thing just asked to look at it again? Yeah? And that's a non-parish council villager who was were recommended to talk to.
And we've asked him already.
Yeah.
And he's already said it's not toxic.
Yeah. But to answer the questions that have been raised this evening, perhaps we could ask again.
I think it'd be good to
For
look
what?
at it one more time.
Yeah, okay.
Because if we've gone down the route of spreading it,
Yeah.
and we haven't asked,
So we're going
at the
to
minute it's in
fruition.
one lump.
Yes. So the proposals then, as I see, are one, that we will ask the village handyman and a person to cordon off the existing park, maintenance person, with hopefully the green fencing. Red, orange fencing is not green, it's orange. Perhaps it should be green, to blend in more with the wilderness. And the second, so that'll be, do you want these separately?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll
Or
propose
are
that.
we adding another hazard with the iron posts that
The
hold it
parish
up?
council don't own any iron.
No, they're only wooden.
They're wooden
No,
ones,
well,
okay.
They were always
They
wooden.
were always wooden, but I'm not sure, I know where the orange fencing is, I don't know whether the wooden posts are the firework committees. I
We'll
don't
have to
think
ask
they're
them.
the parish councils.
I can tell you that.
We'll make inquiries and get them
Mm.
one way or another. Okay. Seconded, all those in favour? Against? Abstaining? Is everybody in favour? Yeah, sorry.
She was just a little bit
Late.
Right, yeah, okay. The second action that I see is to seek the advice of the parishioner regarding the toxicity of the...
Are they going to consult, are we going to get the permission, is this included in the permission from, or checking that we don't need permission or we do need permission from the Environment Agency?
Should we ask the Environment Agency if we got permission to spread it on our own land? I know, but that is a bit flippant because
There's
the Environment
legislation about
Agency
it.
say that
You
they
can get
can't.
prosecuted.
Yeah, exactly, that's what.
I've only raised it because you don't want to get prosecuted if they don't like it.
When the county council said that we should do this, their advice was to do this. And did they say at all about don't spread it or put it anywhere or do put it anywhere? Or did they say there was no advice?
Well, the advice was give it to a farmer and spread it on his field.
Okay. So if he can spread it
That
on his
was the
field,
solution.
But it didn't see it, but they built.
So, I'm quite happy if we ask the environmental officer. But it's, you guys, do you want us to do that?
there's no harm, is
No,
there?
I don't think there's any. No. So the next proposal is that we will contact the environmental officer and discuss the case with them and get their advice.
Are we going environmental officer or environment agency?
Environment Agency. Contact the Environment Agency and discuss and seek their recommendation, their advice. And if needs be, contact our local parishioner who could test the toxicity of the materials, if needs be. Because we don't have to go back to that individual and ask them to do it again.
No.
The Environment Agency would say there's no issue. Okay, happy?
Yeah.
I propose that. Everybody's in favour of that. Good, thank you.
If all of that comes back,
We
are we
won't,
then going to proceed with what our plan
Have a
was?
mandate to do that.
it'll come back to the next meeting, at which point we'll decide what we're going to do. We won't start playing with the stuff
Yeah.
until we've got these points cleared up.
Okay, I'm just concerned about leaving it too long and then it becoming worse.
It's no dangerous.
Getting it wrong. I'm more concerned about getting it wrong.
And then it'll warm up, and then it'll, but we will give it the right address. It's not going to sit there forever, but it's, we're not going to rush and do it, I'm saying.
No.
Would be my suggestion. Okay? Happy? Happy?
Yes.
Right, the next item on the agenda is pavilion. To consider, do you want to talk about the pavilion? Consider the quotes for the pavilion improvements and decide upon a preferred supplier. Nicole's gone out and got quotes. They're in here. And there's a summary.
So yeah, I had appointments with 7 contractors, 1 didn't show up, so I met with 6, had written quotes from 3. I've got copies of those quotes.
And do we, I saw the detail and there was a variety of detail in the 3 quotes. So it was hard to see if they were like for like.
Well, the conversations I had were like for like, so
Right.
it's interesting to see their
Yeah. I
interpretations.
suppose we'd have to do a bit more confirming of exactly what's included.
But this would be sufficient to go for a grant, would it?
Well,
So A is 80,000 plus 4.5 for special base, no, spec 2.
Well, so A is included, in spec 2 you've got the external cladding, the rainwater goods and the aluminium posts.
Yeah.
So in spec 1, in the 80 grand, they've included the cladding and the rainwater goods. So the additional 4.5 is for the aluminium posts.
Okay. And spec 2 at 93,990.09 includes all that work, or is it just for spec
No,
1?
that's just for spec 1.
But and no indication from them what the additional cost would be to have the bits that we just spoken about for spec 2. And contestant number C has quoted 66,954.48, but hasn't provided a quote for spec 2. So like for like, you've got B and C, effectively, and A is sort of 84.5 if you, but that would cover both specs. Whereas B and C don't give you a price for both specs. Right.
I think
That's clear, is it?
Yes. I support what Rob says. There's a lot of variation in the specs. The thickness of the insulated plasterboard. One's referring to cast iron rain water goods, which obviously are a very premium product. And even down to the heating system was just like a general, and then there's more specifics in some. I mean, there's different sorts of air source heat pumps as well. You can have an air to air, a blown system, or you can have a wet system. I mean, some of them mention radiators, some don't. It's very hard to make a balanced assessment between the three.
I think that my conclusion was one of them was 20,000 cheaper than the other two. As for my comparison, although admittedly it's not necessarily like for like. But I think that's the starting point, isn't it?
The last one.
Don't you go with the cheaper
We're
and
not
instead?
required to go with the cheaper one. You know, your financial regs do not require you to choose the cheapest option.
Yeah, no, but it's a
Got the
common
best
sense thing
value.
really. We've got 20,000 to spend on something else.
So we've got the quotes, and what we're doing tonight is authorising the clerk to apply for grant using those quotes.
I need a preferred supplier out
Zero.
of 3.
Yeah.
And why you chose that? It's part of the quote process, the grant process.
And is the grant for the whole amount?
So this FCC, no, there's contributing third party pay of 11%.
So we have to contribute 11%.
Yeah.
And at the minute we've got 7.5
You've got
set
2.5
aside.
in easement, you've got 2.5 in seal.
We've got 9. 10 it is, yeah. You're right. We've got 10,000, which would give you 11% on most of those, wouldn't it? Which money has been held back to go towards this project.
Do you guys think of the cheapest one then? I mean, in terms of the quality of what they're proposing compared with the other two? I mean, I'm not a practical sort
I
of
think it's very
DIY
hard.
merchant, so I'm...
It's very hard to draw a comparison because the disparity in the detail.
That's what I found. I was hoping you would be more knowledgeable.
No, I mean that's the problem. That you
Don't know the people.
apples and pears.
Do we have any reviews? Has anybody used any of these people for anything else?
I mean, I've already put I have a non-pecuniary interest, obviously as an officer I don't have to declare an interest, but there is a familial link there. So
I meant, is anybody else then?
No.
Because I haven't...
If our preferred person is the most expensive, that's what we put on the application, and then somebody else materialises and produces a quote where the spec is better than that preferred one, are we committed to
The preferred one.
yeah, if I remember rightly from the playground application, you were committed to that.
Right.
When do you need to make a decision with this? When
Well,
do you have
there's
to apply
this,
for grant?
it's a cyclical deadline, so the deadline's every quarter. So the next deadline is the 8th of March.
Okay.
It's quite a long application form. So given that the next meeting is on the 6th of March, I think it's unlikely I would turn around an application form in 2 days.
Because I know plans, a design has been pulled up, but has any building regs been applied to it?
No, the spec that was put together was presented in December. It was quite it was quite loose in its spec, in the fact that it said for insulation, for instance, to be agreed.
Yeah.
So which is why you've got different, insulating external walls was on the spec, method to be agreed.
And one of them put in they were going to put, I can't remember, they need their architectural input.
That was more, was that for the piers? Most of them said that in order to change the brick piers for metal, they would need to have a structural engineer obviously assess the load, where the load is sitting.
I just think there needs to be more conversation with them.
Yeah, well, so the next deadline would then be June on the grant.
And has the council got a date that we want to have this done by?
I don't think that there's any deadline for this.
And when could they start?
I didn't ask that question. One asked for a week's notice. I think that might be.
Oh, well, that puts your, okay, obviously not busy.
There's been a couple of unsuccessful applications for grants.
By us?
Yeah.
Because just thrown out, or?
Just not.
They
Maybe
were
not Sport England.
Sport
anyway,
England
rather
grants that were specific grant funds for disadvantaged or minority groups. So obviously the cricket pavilion and Hilton didn't fit into any of those categories.
One of them says 12 weeks work.
Yeah.
Does the Pavilion Working Group have any recommendations?
These haven't gone to the pavilion working
They've only just come in.
They've only just come in this week.
Could we resolve that the Pavilion Working Group decide on which spec is the most appropriate?
No, you can delegate it to me on the advice of the pavilion working group. You can't delegate to a working group.
Okay, can we delegate it to you?
So quite a big decision.
It's a huge decision. It shouldn't be.
I don't know that it should be
I think
down to one person.
what we could do,
But at the advice of the pavilion working group.
But it's too big a decision to put on one shoulders. This is why you have a council.
Yeah. So the sensible thing would be, given the amounts involved, would be for the pavilion working group to meet, take the 3 quotes apart, look at what is clear, what isn't clear, go back to the builders to seek clarification, come back to the next parish council meeting, if it's done by then, because it might not, and for a suitable application to be submitted for the next deadline, not the 8th of March. Because these are only just, one of them's only just come in, isn't it?
Yeah, well they're all, they came in Friday and Monday.
Yeah.
Can we not pre-prepare the submission? So, and then all we have to do
Slot the name.
on after the next meeting is put one of the 3 names in, and then
I can
minor
try.
details in because then that saves us 3 months.
Yeah.
Because it's been dragging on and on.
It has been dragging on and on. But don't,
And still will. But
don't rush it for the sake of trying to get a deadline.
But I don't think that is
Given
the
the
issue,
amount.
is it? Because it achieves, it gets the pavilion working group, it comes back to the meeting, and we make the March deadline.
Yes, good idea.
Are they time limited, those votes?
Some of them are,
Yeah,
this
some of
one's
them.
fixed price until April 2023, so there's no way you'd get, and I did say to all of them, the absolute earliest we would have a decision would be June, because that's when this grant cycle then comes to decision.
Which is nice, quoting cheap, as you could say, on the grant.
Yeah. The one, which one, Amy, you'll see, is the one that said they only needed a week's notice? Just curious.
The cheapest one.
Right. He's desperate, isn't he?
I don't use I think the figures are meaningless without standardisation of the spec.
Yeah.
you aren't just comparing apples with pears potentially,
Can't.
and
Okay.
it's a pointless exercise. There's got to be that a very greater level of.
But we'll be trying to
The
do
thing
what's
is,
been
we haven't
proposed.
given them a spec.
I can't, I
So
don't
the
think
committee
they've
could
made
pick the best.
guaranteeing that
Yeah.
we'd meet that
They've
deadline.
said what they need.
So we need
We need to give them a spec.
standard spec. And then they
And
quote
then,
you.
but you need to know, you know, what thickness your insulation has to be for your building regs to give that spec. So we haven't quite got the whole.
No, so who can,
Yeah.
because that's not something I'm qualified to advise on. So,
No.
you know, do I need to get external support in to?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is going to be that it's going to be the builders, isn't it? Because from my recent experience dealing with builders, you will go back to them with a list of questions, and then it's how long it takes them to answer it. Will that come in before the meeting? And,
Building regs will dictate, I should think, though, the thickness of insulation. And the builder will have to when they come and inspect at the installation stage, they will have to come and evidence that to meet the building regs.
Yeah.
So I would imagine it's the thinnest one that's been quoted. And then we've got one that's doing, no, all that for the roof, yeah, I was thinking about the wall. Yeah, they've all said 250 for the roof, but there's 57 and 75 and not quoted for the wall, the insulated plasterboard. So there's three different things there. I imagine the 57 is probably the minimum, and someone's gone up spec and someone's not mentioned
So
it.
how do you find out about the building regs, and then who puts the spec together?
Normally an architect will do that.
Right.
But we haven't got an architect, so we've done a design.
Right.
But now that's what I'm saying. We've got a design, but we haven't. You can't just build it from that design.
No.
You've got to follow it.
What's the next thing?
You've got
that has to
building
happen?
reg plans are drawn up.
Yeah. But I mean, you can go through. I mean, there's a massive thing of building regs that you can go through and find. We could find out what we need. It just takes a long time to do
Right.
it.
But the builder may well have their own architect who can then do it for
Yeah.
you.
So if they have sort of design and build, they might be. Which is perhaps what that chap. One of them had a design and build.
Well,
£5,000 put in or something. you
yeah,
know.
or project manager and,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's got to be bounced out of the Pavilion Working Group to do some more work on this, on the
Yeah.
quotes,
Okay, I
to get
agree.
some sensation.
You
And
need to come up
We
with a spec.
accept we're not going to meet the March submission just because it's so much
But
in front of the builders.
yeah, and it's much further forward than it has been for a long time. We've actually got 3 quotes now to do some work from.
But none of those quotes will be live for when we do the work.
Oh,
We shouldn't be far off it though, should they?
and we will talk to them about that. Because, and what contingency they would add in for the fact that it's likely to be, because it's got to go through the grant system and that sort of thing. And we'll ask them when they could start. I know one of them talked about 12 weeks, didn't they? I think that's this one. Yeah, project manager for duration of the project, 12 weeks. Provide portal for duration of the project for 12 weeks. So that's a probably an indication of how long they think it will last. Proposal is that it gets referred back to the Pavilion Working Group for them to go through and try and make a recommendation to the council of a preferred supplier. Yeah.
Are we also asking Nicola to prep the application?
I don't think. Well, do you really seriously think that on the 6th of March we'll be saying that we can press the button on the grant application? I don't think we will.
Okay.
So, because you should also be saying that the parish council is considering spending £10,000 plus this grant money of, if the grant money comes in, let's say it was the top quote there, talking of spending £90,000. Right? So that needs to be in the minutes for the public to see and to allow any member of the public to come back to the council. Although it has been, the plans have been out there for 5 years probably, and it's been discussed on many occasions, and the only feedback we've had is from a parishioner saying, why haven't you done it yet? Yeah, but unfortunately, the grant applications that were made previously were rejected. So it's just to give public awareness again. So propose that this goes back to the reading group. Given that the quotes have only just come in, and they can break it down, put it together, ask extra questions, and come back to the parish council with recommendations.
Yeah.
Seconded. All those in favour? Do we have to do any vote on time yet? Time of the meeting. And at 9 o'clock. Still got time? Don't we have to vote to extend it?
No, we've got 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
10:30 you've got to
Okay, fine. I just...
yeah. Sorry. Do you want to just defer 218.2?
218.2, which is to authorise the clerks to apply for the grant. I propose that that is deferred. Seconded. All in favour? Thank you. Right. So the next item on the agenda is that we have been successful in our bid for a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit across the green, despite comments that we might not be, but we are. And we've had a map showing where the signs will change, and somebody says, I'm about to raise an order for the signing work, which we have to allow a 12-week lead-in time. However, in reality, the work is currently being completed quicker. Well, we don't want to raise people's expectations. The council is saying it could be 12 weeks to put the new signage up, which will extend the 30 mile an hour across the green to the end of the village boundary.
And we end up with less signposts on the green this evening.
Yeah, you lose 2 but you gain 1.
Yeah. So we met that.
Yeah.
So excellent, thank you.
And smaller.
Lower.
Lower and smaller.
Just one question, Nicola. I thought there was going to be like, they couldn't put the 30 right at the start of the 40 section at the moment. So I in my mind, there was going to be like a little buffer zone, and then it was going to switch to 30 around at the start of the green or something.
No, there was a discussion about that when the feedback came from the police in the informal consultation before we went out to formal consultation as to whether the 30 could be a shorter distance, and so you'd retain 40. But the council decided not to go for that, and they went for the 30 all the way, and that's what's been approved. Okay,
which is great. So as requested in our submission, so brilliant.
Are you going to note that?
Note what? Note the placement of the signs.
Yeah.
Propose that we note the placement of the signs. Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Good. Right. Claire, we're there. To approve the health project grant agreement for £7,500 and authorise the clerk to make the relevant purchases. I will shut up on this one, and I will let you talk this one because I haven't really been involved in it. So I want to make sure we get it right.
So the proposal came in several parts from the working group, and the awards come through for all of the parts. However, the panel have asked that the first 4 items are prioritised, which is the cricket courses and the first 4 and number 10, which is the cookery courses. So we have to be able to do those before any of the other purchases are made. At the moment, the cookery courses is a ballpark figure of £3,000 because we haven't got final confirmation from the supplier, and the coach cost. Obviously, it's gone up from what the estimate was based on what feedback I had from Cricket East, but it depends on who the coach is as to what they actually charge at the end of the day. So the intention is to run the Cricket East All Stars and Dynamos courses. So All Stars is for, let's see if I can get this right, 3 to 7 year olds. Dynamos is for 7 to 11 year olds. So those two could be run on the same day back to back. And the intention, if we can get it organised with the coach, would be to run it in the 8 weeks that leads up to Christmas. It says 12 weeks on here, but those are both 8-week courses. So that would then run up to Feast Week, where the children then have the opportunity to play in a cricket match.
And for clarity, I was going to say, Peace Week isn't held around Christmas.
I think you can't play.
I thought
Feast
that
week.
was the other thing.
Run up to Feast Week.
Oh, good, not Christmas.
This is why I don't do the talking. So obviously that includes the equipment. The Cricket East packs, that's why the courses are so expensive with Cricket East, is that each child then receives a pack that includes a t-shirt and a cricket bat, a cricket ball and so on and so forth, so they can then get involved. The cookery courses, I have 2 suppliers at the moment that I'm talking with. One looks brilliant, but she's only plant-based, so then a debate as to whether we stick plant-based or whether we want a wider choice of menu.
What does the other one do?
Meat-based.
She is community outreach, so it's more teaching you about healthy eating and how to cook on a budget. So the focus of those cookery courses is that it will be cooking on a budget, one aimed at families and one aimed at cooking for one on a budget. So again, helping with cost of living, helping those at the lower socio-economic end of the scale. So then the other items you sort of group into 2 sections. You've got equipment to supplement the Friday games, to widen that to an audience that perhaps might not be so interested in the sporty stuff and might like to play chess or Jenga, and also supplying a helper to run the tea on the green out of the village hall, and provide the tea, coffee and the hire of the hall for those activities. As I say, you know, we have the maximum amount of grant we could possibly have had, and whilst we have to prioritise those courses, we can then look at...
Oh, I see, yeah. So the total spend is in excess of the grant,
Yeah.
but you've had some money.
So we had the £2,500 of direct payment, and that's the carryover, that's the remainder of the £2,500 that we're currently holding. So the total then comes out at 8.8, and we'll get 7.5.
Okay, so you just have to trim
Trim your cloth accordingly.
One thing I've missed actually from, obviously we discussed this bit, what it involves, but I just realised from listening to you explain what the cricket lessons were, we've missed our sort of target age group again of the 12 plus, which is the ones that we never provided for.
So when I spoke to the Cricket East chap about cricket courses, he said, because I said that was our target age group, he said you won't reach that target age group. If you run a course for teenagers for cricket, no one will turn up, or you'll just get those that are already involved in cricket.
I know
because
teenagers that
once you
are
get
asked
to that,
to play cricket at the games evening.
but once you get to that age group, they've already decided they like cricket.
Right, so
they're already playing for a club or playing in a group, and they're already cricketers, if you like. So for these sorts of courses, if you run those courses, you'll get the people that are already cricketers, but you're unlikely to get people who have never played cricket turn up to try, because at that point they've already made their decision whether they like cricket or not.
You're looking at actually growing on some future cricketers with this, by the look of it.
It's a
Well,
long-term
this is the idea, is that,
3
you know,
years.
for this chap from Cricket East was saying, you know, if you get the children in and playing, you'll find you get some dads that then want to come in and run it, and it will then grow organically. And as you say, those children that play in the children's groups will then make a teenage group as they come through.
Well, that would be good.
Yeah.
That happened, that would be great. So 1 to 4 and 10 roughly comes up to 7,500, isn't it?
Yeah, so obviously you've still got your 2, 1, 8 to spend as well.
Okay, yeah, fine.
So that's your total spend, is your 7.5 plus your 2, 2, 1, 8.
So what's your next steps?
So the next step is to sign this document to say that Hilton Parish Council confirm the acceptance of this grant under the conditions of the memorandum of understanding that you've already signed, and then we get the money and I start booking courses.
Tom,
Yeah, that's
well done working group.
Do we need to vote?
Resolve anything.
Yeah, we probably do.
Yeah, so you need to, there's two parts. You need to approve that I can sign that document as an agreement, and you need to authorise me to go ahead and make the relevant arrangements, as in booking courses and buying equipment.
So would you like those as two proposals?
Yes, please.
So proposal one is to sign the grant agreement. Proposed, seconded, all in favour? The second element then is to authorise the clerk to make the relevant arrangements and purchases. Proposed, seconded, and all in favour? Thank you. So we're going to see a lot of that coming up in the lead up to feasible as such.
Probably, yeah. Depends on what, availability of running
The coaches, yeah.
Yeah.
And all that sort of thing.
Is it worth for the accelerating or expediting the number 9, thinking of the warm hub? Would that be useful for the warm hub? Board games and stuff.
Well, the first thing
Or
we're
is
doing
it
is signing up the thing,
You need
to get the money.
first.
Get the money, and then the clerk can...
I'll need to organise 1 to 4 and 10 before I can,
Yeah.
because those are provisional numbers. As I say, I don't have the final quotes, so I need to be able to establish exactly what's going to be spent on 1 to 4 and 10 before I can apportion money elsewhere.
Right, the next item on the agenda is to receive the surveyor's report on the assets of the parish council, namely being the cricket pavilion, the Lich Gate and the bus shelter. So, and you've got that in your supporting documents with photographs, valuations which were required because for insurance values, and read that the valuations are pretty good, in line with what we've got already.
Not far off.
Yeah. On the asset.
The bus shelter was a little bit extra.
6.5, what would you...
We've got 4 something in there.
So, and the surveyor had conducted, given us some comments on the various assets. So cricket pavilion property appears in fair structural order but would benefit from routine maintenance. Well, it might be one day. The Lich Gate is structurally stable, but one side wall is cracked and would benefit from repair, and the bus shelter has got some things in the roof which he's recommending that the roof is removed, and part of the timber fascia is repaired. So those are any comments? Because I've got a proposal somewhere.
We're going to go on to talk about the bus shelter.
Yeah, it's a separate
I'll
item.
hold off on that.
Oh yeah, there we are. It's a separate item. So, thank you very much, Mr. Surveyor. And it ticks your box for the need for the revised valuations for the asset register risk review. Not sure what happens when you change the value.
You don't change the AVAR value of the assets, you just change the insurable value, which we now just report to the insurers to say these are the correct values to make sure we're insured
Okay.
appropriately.
So everybody happy with the reports? Given we've got the bus shelter as a separate item, so I propose we accept that report. Everybody's agreed. So the next one is to consider repairs of the bus shelter roof and decide upon any actions. I guess we're going to need some quotes for that, aren't we?
Yes.
Okay, why don't we demolish the bus shelter and maybe replace it for the cost of a new roof with a glass one, if you do want some form of shelter there. But given there aren't really that many buses anymore, I'm not sure it's...
Apart from the twice a day school.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the school buses twice a day all over the village, and they don't have bus shelters to stand in. So I just wonder whether maintaining that asset, ugly asset, 60s looking asset, in the centre of the village is a worthwhile thing for the council to be doing.
Norman Foster designed it. Didn't design it.
Yeah, well done.
Norman Bates. But that's also a proposal, isn't it? Knock it down.
Is it on our land?
That,
You
was
don't
the
own
question that was going
land,
through my
but
mind.
the asset is yours. In the fact that no one else will take responsibility.
It's a valid point before we make any expenditure that we consider what
And
the
how much it
future, the
costs.
viability, the necessity is of the item, I
Mm.
guess. And before we pay the enhanced insurance premium.
It also depends how much the quotes come in at, if they
Yeah, absolutely. As well.
just, we don't know what we're talking about in terms of amount.
That's usual.
I'm not wedded to keeping it, by the way, I'm just
A quote
saying it
a
might
quote
be,
is free, isn't
you
it?
might find
Yeah.
it's cheaper to keep it and put a new
Than
roof
knock
on
it
than
down.
it is to actually demolish the thing.
It has,
Unless we're going to do the demolition ourselves.
well, it's asbestos, so we can't.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is it asbestos?
On the
It has got,
previous
Oh.
the report is that, or a previous report told us that.
needs somebody special
It
in
has,
it.
has
it
to be
has
tested.
labs to actually test it.
Is it? Oh,
It's
okay.
confirmed
I
just-
was going to say.
Is it hazardous at the moment because it's
Yeah.
not in a good state? Is the
No,
asbestos?
it's relatively good condition, but obviously should that main beam go and the whole lot fall in, then that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good plan.
It is incredibly ugly,
It is.
and it does cause problems from time to time with people
Doing
sitting
things they shouldn't in it.
not waiting for buses.
However, it also provides shelter for parents of children at the main bus stop within the village. Correct?
Yes.
I would think, yeah. So that is another thing you have to bear in mind. But let's get a quote. Get a quote that says what the cost of repairing it, removing the stuff on the seat, on the roof and repairing that in line with what the surveyor suggested would need to repair, and the cost of removing it.
Can I ask a third quote to be obtained, which is just of a glass modern structure, which would just prevent people from sitting in it?
Yeah, so
I don't mean prevent people from sitting in it, I mean prevent people who shouldn't be sitting in it sitting in it, because they then become visible.
Yes.
So we need a quote for removal and quote for.
A new one.
A modern one.
yeah, and we can
Why not?
decide later
Yeah.
whether we want to rebuild or whether just remove or just fix the roof.
Happy with that, James?
Yes.
Yeah.
Propose that. All those in favour? Sorry. Right, to consider a response to the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority draft bus strategy consultation and decide upon any actions. So Claire mentioned about bus strategies. Yeah, so there is a consultation until the 22nd of February. The bus strategy sets the vision for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, which is for a comprehensive network of bus services across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough that people find convenient, easy to use, reliable, affordable, and offers an attractive alternative to the car. The purpose of the bus strategy is not to examine detailed granular issues around specific routes and services, more to outline the key strategic aims, objectives and aspirations the region has for its bus network to enable the combined authority and partners to bid for further funding and shape the network to meet the needs of residents and businesses. Which means that there's a survey to be done, consultation to be done, 2 councillors to help you do it?
That would be the standard.
Yeah? Rob says yes.
I've got addicted to.
You don't want to break up the winning team, so I suppose you're better than me down for the other one.
Thank you. So the proposal is that Rob and councillors, Robin
You
John,
are-
Capes and Dulstan will support the clerk in completing this bus strategy consultation.
So I've got it down as delegate the response to this consultation to the clerk in consultation with.
Yeah, that will do, won't it? Happy with that? Yes. Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Anybody want any recommendations that they use in the consultation, like Hilton would like to see a regular bus service to and from the guided bus in St Ives?
That would be my intention, however it does talk about, it's not to go into granularity. So
We could talk generally about
a lot
how
of rural bus services.
But the aspirations the region has
Talk
for its bus
about
network.
it being necessary to join up the guided
That was-
bus with other
Oh,
stolen the
services. You
phrase
don't-
out of my
Okay, there we
mouth.
go.
Rural connectivity.
Yes.
No one let me say it.
Thank you.
Sorry, John.
That's all right.
More than one delay. Right.
Integration.
Have we voted on that?
No.
Yes.
No.
Proposed, seconded,
Thank you.
everybody, thank you. To consider and decide upon the request to erect the Easter Cross on the green from the 6th of April to the 11th of April. I'll just say, I propose that we allow that.
I'd like to counter-propose that we give them a 10-year licence. So then
That's
go
not-
through this ritual every year.
That's not on the agenda for this year. So the proposal is that on the agenda is that the Easter Cross is put up from the 6th of April to the 11th of April. I propose that. Seconded. All in favour? Thank you. That other request would need to come at a separate resolution for a separate meeting. The next item is
Wording.
the consultation regarding the National Planning Policy Framework and decide upon any actions. So, the bit that the government has published its long anticipated and delayed prospectus Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill, reforms to national planning policy setting out its proposed revisions to the National Planning Framework, NPPF.
Policy. National Planning Policy.
That's not what it says in
No.
oh, it says it in the title, but not in that bit. Okay. Covers all planning issues and sets out the government's planning policies that English should apply. So, that is a consultation, surprisingly. Ends on the 2nd of March 2023. Please respond via Citizen Space, which is the department's online consultation portal and our preferred route for receiving consultation responses. We strongly encourage the responses to many blah, blah, blah. So, and we have a separate file called 26 Things Clerks Need to Know about the government proposed reforms to the planning system in England.
Snappy little title.
26 things that the clerk needs to know. Number one, it is big. It is over
That's just the
50
consultation,
pages.
not the legislation.
Spans most of it. All right, so,
Peter,
yes.
I'm not convinced that Hilton's input will have any influence, and therefore, do we really need to do it?
I think we should always do these consultations because we're asked to. And although we may be a very small little voice in these things, I think that if we have 3 people do it, you're right, it's not going to determine the national policy, but they should always, are given an opportunity to express a voice, no matter how small.
Okay. It's just that when it talks about some sort of roof, it seemed a very strange consultation. Mansard roofs to be encouraged.
Yes, lovely as they are, if you know what a mansard roof is.
I'm not quite sure I know what one is.
It's a roof that comes down beyond the level of your windows up.
Like a big dormer. Very big dormer,
So
isn't it? Georgian.
Why that is,
I think my point was, do we want our clerk to spend time doing this?
what's the clerk got to say about that?
I will manage my time accordingly.
Okay.
So, you know, like we ended up with the pavilion quotes being deferred for a month to get in projects, so I'll have to manage my time based on the deadlines.
Deadline for this is just end of March. Who should do it?
The clerk in consultation with.
Liv? 2 people from the planning committee, I think. Oh, the green team again. No, I'll put the name for this because I am chairman of the planning committee. Anybody else on the planning? Sarah, thank you. Okay? And we'll keep it short, but we should do it. So there is the delegation of completion of the consultation to the clerk with councillors Baliki and Sutton. Yep, all those, yeah, opposed, seconded, everybody's in
I'm
favour?
abstaining.
Heather's abstaining. Right, what's the next one? Consider the upcoming coronation and decide upon any actions, and you heard a request from a commissioner that we would engage in any beacon lighting. Now, the interesting thing on that is that one of the documents you had in support was a briefing given by the pageant master, who has advised that there is unlikely to be a national beacon lighting thing for the coronation, although he stated it's unlikely that there'd be lighting of beacons for the coronation, although Buckingham Palace has officially confirmed nothing. So we'll have that in the background. There are other things that are going on that have some effect, no doubt, on the village. There is a request in the next item on the agenda, or two things on the agenda regarding the coronation. So, any comments? Because the other proposal would be that Parish Council will support actions of groups within the village in coronation celebrations that they may wish to organise.
Could we ask parishioners what they would like to occur in the village? Because Margaret was saying she would like a tree or what would the other thing?
Bench.
A bench. But it would be good to know
Cops.
what would be cops.
Or somebody wants a beacon lighting.
You can have a beacon, but you can have something else. I mean, we did our own event, didn't we, for the Queen's Jubilee, didn't we? I don't know what we're doing. So.
Well, it seems from the supporting documents that there is guidance, isn't there? In that it's the actual coronation on the Saturday, a streets party stroke lunch on the Sunday, and a
volunteering.
So
big help out.
And I wondered whether that was what Claire wanted to organise. She was talking about a litter collecting thing, which would be a big help out in the village, wouldn't it? So whether or not but she's not here to ask this evening, and we're not going to dump her in it to say you can do that for that day. But that is the rub of it, isn't it? 6th is watch the coronation. 7th is have lunch. 8th is clear it up.
They did say in the guidance about something about you can put screens up, and I know Dead Santa are doing something like that, aren't they? I mean, I'm not quite sure what is organised.
But so if we can we park this agenda item for a moment and move on to the next one? So the next item on the agenda is to decide and to consider and decide the request from Hilton Parish to hold a band evening on Saturday the 6th of May around the pavilion to celebrate the upcoming coronation, which is on Saturday, which is the day of the coronation.
Which I assume the coronation will be at sort of lunchtime-ish.
Yeah, it'll be over by the time.
So we can all go out
I think we should just support.
Yeah,
I don't think we should do a separate or become involved in what's already going on.
Yeah, fine by me.
Personally.
That's what I would say, is that we will support, I don't know if the village hall committee have got any ideas of whether they want to do a big lunch on the Sunday, or, you know, the WI might want to do something. Who knows? So the proposal for 226 then is that we, the Parish Council, will monitor what's decided by, suggested by Buckingham Palace, given that there is this comment that there will not be a beacon lighting campaign for this event. That is not yet decided. I've lost completely where I was. But the Parish Council will support local organisations in activities they may wish to put on before to celebrate the coronation.
Interrupt there on advice from Buckingham Palace, because the pageant master specifically says we have received so many calls and emails from previous participants asking if beacons are planned to be lit in celebration of the forthcoming coronation of King Charles III in June next year. The answer from Buckingham Palace is no. The reason being they are conscious that the coronation will take place less than a year after the Queen's Platinum Jubilee beacons were lit, and are therefore anxious to ensure that the events planned for May 2023 have a markedly different look to those of June 2022.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. But what you said was, are we thinking, do we ask the village if there's something else that they want to commemorate. We are getting a new king at the end of the day. Whether you're a royalist or not, that's an event in itself, and not a bench or a tree or something. But there
Because
might
a
be.
villager has said they don't want that.
Yeah,
So that
but
is a
so
voice of the village.
is it worth asking if there is?
I think it would be good to ask villagers what they would like to do to commemorate the coronation.
And then
few
you
people
can
may
tell them
respond.
what's already on, can't you? You can.
Well,
and
those
then-
groups will publicise what they're doing.
Yeah. So
Just as a parish council, how would you like this event to be marked? And see if we get any response whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
How would you ask that?
Put it in section, put it on the parish council Facebook. put it
And
on
on the
notice
website.
board.
Yeah.
Always.
Notice board. Good. So there is a resolution.
There is an action.
somewhere. So the parish council will support local groups in actions to commemorate, or events to commemorate the coronation. We do that one first, shall we? Proposed, seconded, everybody. The parish council resolves to ask by its media sources what how parishioners would like to see the coronation commemorated within the village. Yeah? Proposed, seconded, everybody in favour? Thank you. Item 227, parish council, well, the easy answer is that the parish council agrees. Yeah, proposed, seconded, that's agrees to the request to have a band evening. Brass band? Marching bands? No.
Heavy rock band?
Yeah. Folk. Right, and the next item, 228, is to consider and decide upon the request from Hilton
Is
Parish.
it okay if we stay in the room but not vote?
Yes.
Please do.
Yeah, it's non-pecuniary.
Okay. To consider and decide upon the request from Hilton Community Garden to place a floral crown on the village green close to the maze to commemorate the coronation. Now, I understand how this works is that flowers are grown and then they are brought in to
Just
create
build a
from a template of a
flowers.
crown.
Yeah.
Like you did the
Like-
Union Jack.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So the proposal is that we agree to that. Who seconded? And four, do you record them as sitting out? Or?
Oh, I just call it as resolved.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is this request from the Community Garden, which is a grant application asking the parish council to donate £100 or give £100 to the Community Garden for bird food. Any comments? Is everybody happy? There's nothing in the budget for it, there's anything else, eh?
No, I'll do my own question.
Yep. However, as a counter to that, we are receiving some money on £235, £206.69 interest, which is unexpected. We haven't budgeted for that money coming in. So, one of the questions I would have would be, has the grant application been made to the town trust, which is good for this sort of support for local engagement. We hear from the town trust that they always look for ways of supporting the local community groups. That would be the word I was looking for. And am I allowed to ask the applicants that question? Heather, I'm going to ask you that question. Has the application been, have you considered making this application to the town trust?
This application hasn't been made to the town trust because we have last year made a different application to the town trust for something else.
Fine. Thank you. Right. Any other questions from parish councillors? Okay. So the proposal is that the Parish Council agrees to the grant request from the Hilton Community Garden for £100 of bird food. Any seconders for that proposal? Nina's seconded it. All those in favour? Yeah, go on. And 78 if we go to, because it would be 28, 78. Any questions? Propose that we pay that. Seconded. Very good. Thank you. Next one is to consider to approve the information and data protection policy. Now, this is a policy document which we've had, which is required because we didn't have one before.
You had them, but they weren't good enough. You had an information security policy and a general privacy notice, but you didn't have anything about your data breach reporting protocol or your subject applicant's request process.
Things I've lost sleep about.
It's very good, well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you all happy to adopt that policy?
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed, seconded, everybody. Thank you very much. Right, the next one is to consider applying for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit through Hilton and decide upon any actions. Now, from what Doug was saying earlier, has all the information come out yet, or is that still to come through?
I think it's still to come through. I haven't received any emails from Highways with the actual protocol of how this is to happen. Obviously, it's come out from the committee minutes, and it's all on their website, but their official communications haven't come out.
They haven't given us a deadline as to when you can apply for it.
That is on the website.
Yeah, it's April 23.
April 23, so it's coming soon.
Yes, and
So,
they've also given the 5 criteria that you need to
fulfil, which is one, getting public support. Again.
Exactly. Yeah. Does the application have demonstrable local support?
Okay.
Is number 4.
So, to get that, we need to ask the parishioners, ask the parish. So, we need to do a leaflet drop, I would guess.
The best way to get a response.
Yeah.
Or can we, given our last road safety survey very recently, that did include support for 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, so I could evidence it with some redacted letters to the clerk supporting the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Is that sufficient?
I would say no. I mean, maybe sufficient enough for the purposes of the application, but I think for the longer term community engagement,
yes,
I would be thinking along the lines that you want to go and ask that specific question to the village. Because what you don't want to do is get to the point, because obviously it's be a similar process that we've gone through with the 30-mile-an-hour limit on the green. There'll have to be a formal public consultation, and what you don't want to do is get to that point in the process and then get objections.
Yeah.
So, simple question. The Parish Council is looking to apply for a 20-mile speed limit on all roads through the village. Do you support this or not?
Yes, although the questionnaire does also say, is there evidence of risk, a known safety issue, substantial anecdotal evidence, and number of slight injuries. So you want that anecdotal evidence coming forward as well.
Well, we can tell them that there is large evidence of speeding through the village, and that this will improve safety for pedestrians and other road users. Sean?
Could you put a free comment box on there that they could write? Yeah. When we've done forms before, you either get people that tick the box and send it in, or you get people that write an essay.
Yeah, okay. So a little, my thoughts on it are that if you're going to go for 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, you do it across the village. You don't say it's going to be because of what you were telling me about
Stanton, or whether you followed this, when Stanton applied for a 20-mile-an-hour limit down High Street, when they went to implement that, they then realised it would mean that they would need 30-mile-an-hour signs going down each of the residential streets off of the High Street because they weren't covered by the 20-mile-an-hour. So they went back to the drawing board on that one.
So
and you get 5 points for a village-wide scheme, which is the maximum.
And also, I remember from the survey we did on road safety, a number of the comments on the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit said we would like it throughout the whole village, and Kidman's Close and here and there, and High Street. So there was wide support for it being more than just Bottom Road. So.
All right, so the proposal there would be that we ask the clerk to produce a flyer in short order.
Are we going to Excel Festival again?
Yes.
It's cheaper to go through them than it is for me to print
Press
it.
the button. That to be distributed by parish councillors across the village with a request for answers by the next meeting, I guess.
Yeah, if you're going to meet the April deadline.
Yeah, we're going to meet the April deadline. We want to have answers back in before the March meeting so that we can discuss it at the March meeting. And for it also to be posted on the website, Facebook account and
There won't make Spectrum, will it?
I think it might be too late for Spectrum.
Yeah, it will be too late.
But it might be-
It will hit the doorsteps 2 days beforehand.
But it might be worth putting a line in Spectrum to remind people to do it if they've received this in time to meet the deadline for reply. Yeah? And for that questionnaire, just to say, do you support Parish Council's proposal to apply for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on all the roads in the village? Yes, no, and if you have any comments regarding the benefits of this, please complete them in the box below.
Before you vote on this one, you ought to decide whether you have a proposal to apply for a 20-mile-an-hour limit.
Oh yes, well, I took that for granted.
You haven't actually resolved that you've decided to do that.
From all the comments over the last few months, I've always just taken that as granted. So there we go. We're going to consider applying for the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in Hilton. Proposal that we do apply for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit in Hilton, subject to backing of the public. That's everybody. The second one is that the questionnaire, as detailed previously,
You've got it. Good.
without, with it being posted on the website and all that sort of thing, is done with the aim to discuss it at the next meeting.
And are we going to ask Kat to send us some information as well?
Ask. No, the answer is if we're asked for anecdotal information, we can ask for it, can't we? At the moment, we're not going to have to send anything in with the application, I don't think.
Yes, you are. Yeah, the questionnaire says give anecdotal information.
We'll ask Kat for some anecdotal information in support of speeding through the village. Now, when we put the thing for the HGV ban in, it came back and said, can we have some information at this time? Now, after all the information was put together and it was being considered, they came back and said, we want a week's worth of data, and which was then provided. So, yes. Got all that?
Ask Kat for data and anecdotal information to support this application.
Regarding speeding through the village.
Collisions, it's not speed,
It's collisions or near misses or potential accidents.
Oh, okay.
There was one this last week. There was a collision on the crossroads. I saw it.
So I leave it open to anecdotal information to support
this application. Good,
Would you like
thank
to
you.
vote on that?
Would you like to vote? I'll propose that, and we're all in favour. Thank you. Right, next item is ACT and attendance. Not that one. Anyway. So, there was a request that this item be discussed in the private section of the council meeting. And if you would like to do that, please let me know, and we'll propose that it's put into the private section of the meeting, or else we'll discuss it now.
I would prefer to.
Okay. Is that a general discussion for everybody? Yeah? Heather would like it in there? I think we should put it in there, because I know that when I was unable to come to the parish council for reasons, personal reasons, that was discussed in the private sector of the meeting. So I propose that this item 2 through 3 is moved to be the last item that we discuss. Oh no, the third and last item that we discussed this evening. Seconded. All those in favour? Good. Review the financial reports. We're trundling on to the end of the year. In fact, yeah. Almost there. How are we doing as responsible financial officer?
Not too bad. We're going to go over in some areas. Obviously, we've had some unexpected income,
Yep.
but then obviously that's led to unexpected expenditure, so it's skewed the accounts
It has.
marginally. When you look at the Green Open Spaces budget, it's calculating at over 1,000% of its budget.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not really reflective because you do see the income from the grants.
Yes. They have clouded it a little bit, because income was £78,000 basically against a budget of 33,000. Boy, we've done well.
Yes.
But then, of course, we've spent well as well.
We're still holding 2,000 for bridge replacement as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
So about time now.
Yeah, so that's within, in your financial accounts, you can see the earmarked reserves. Detailed out. That shows you where £2,000 areas for bridge replacement.
But fortunately, at the minute, CCC seem to be stepping up to the mark on that. Well,
Yes.
the quality is...
The quality is debatable, but they are doing the work.
Yeah. So that's good. Still got that 9,500 from Cambridge County Council for the end of the year.
Yeah, and the relevant £500 that you've earmarked to go towards that as well.
Yeah.
And we're still holding the £9,000 for the lorry van LHI contribution. It's not been invoiced yet either.
So whilst the reserves look very healthy,
10 grand, but it's not yours.
and well, nearly 20,000 to spend,
Yeah.
isn't it? So before we get too excited, ladies and gentlemen, some of that money's gone out. Anybody got any comments that they wish to raise regarding the financial reports? Must be time for the independent assessment of the bank statements.
Yeah, that's due. Need to arrange a member other than the chair.
Yep, that's why I just want to make sure it's being done.
Me again.
I don't
I do
know.
that.
I think it might be.
Oh,
But we'll let you.
we're not the only two on the finance committee then.
Oh,
No,
I
it
am,
can't be.
but I'm not allowed to do it. So, well done, chaps. We'll let you get that sorted out,
Okay.
and then we'll come to the end of this financial year and trundle into the next, for which budget has already been set.
So up there on your budget analysis, you can see the forecast for next year.
So that's good. If there's no comments, I would propose that we accept, or no further comments, I propose that we accept the financial reports. Secondly, all those in favour? Right, monies received. £1,367 National Lottery Grant for table tennis, £37,800 CCC grant for dredging, £691.55 donation from Hilton Wildlife Conservative Group.
Nearly.
Conservation.
Group.
Yeah, not conservative, conservation. I'd have to change that to LD Group, wouldn't we? For bench, reimbursement for district auditor report of £1,514.82, which is district valuer, really, isn't it? Rather than district auditor.
Yeah, I'll change that to value.
Yep. And £206.69 interest. Hardly touched the bank account before it was spent. Or some of it was spent. Do we have to
Just note those.
note the payments received as a vote?
Only way you can make a
Yeah,
decision.
thank you. Right. I'm not going to reject it, I suppose, are we? And then we've got a huge schedule of payments to be received. They're all detailed on the agenda. They're on the website. And I'm going to say that we propose that we pay these items. If anybody, unless anybody's got any queries. No, and if so, if not, then I propose that we pay those items. Seconded by Rob. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Right, and then we come to councillors' items. Right, where should we start? Should we start with Nina? No councillors' items? No? Sarah, no?
Thank you.
No, John, Rob, Heather?
Yes. So, as a parish councillor, I'm on the village hall committee, and so go to their meetings and take part in the meetings. They've got a new committee, they're working really hard and doing lots of fantastic things. I just wanted to share that with you and say that, for example, there are 2 new dishwashers arriving in the kitchen next week. Twenty-six people, I think it was, at the last one on Friday afternoon, ranging from 2-year-olds to people almost 90. So, nice range, lots of nice things happening, and I just thought I'd share all that. Good news.
One item has come in late, too late for the agenda, which was a shame, is that on the 9th of May 2023, there is a garden party at Buckingham Palace, which is, for which it's Cambridgeshire's turn, and now I've been asked to forward a list of the names of those chairmen of parish councils and town mayors in England who are recommended for invitation. And there are policies of that you can't be nominated to go if you've been already, and there is it has to be someone who is outgoing. Now, I'm fairly outgoing, but apparently that's not the word that we're looking for. So
Outgoing members.
Outgoing members. So this would be previous chairman, and so I'm just letting you know the deadline is Monday. So we're going to approach 2 recently people who have served as chairman of the parish council and ask if they'd like to attend, because they have to give their consent for it to be put forward. And it won't be me. Well, I could arrange the outgoing, and I could be. So that's all from me. So thank you very much, members of the audience, public. I mean, not audience, public. And we're going to vote to. So we've now got a proposal to have a closed section of the parish council, at which members of the public are asked to leave. I propose that. Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you.